Hello, this is Mesh from Downtime Distractions, taking a first look review at this new title called E.T Armies. So, we categorize our first look review differently than a full review by 3 caveats. So, gameplay time that we've put in is under 8 hours, we've not completed or beaten the game, and we still have room to gain more skills or knowledge across single or multiple facets of the title. So that applies to this one too. So with that out the way, let's start looking at some gameplay and talk about this game a bit more. So this title is coming out on the 4th of March and is created by Raspina Studio. They're a developer out of Iran. Now, interesting factoid with these developers. There was an article I read and where the publisher, Merge Games, mentioned that the only reason this title is coming out on Steam now, because previously it's been out in Iran for a while, is because of the recent sanctions lift on Iran by the US. So I just thought that was an amazing component of this to this game and to the developers, that this world event has affected them like this. So I just wanted to add that. Okay, so let's jump into what this game is really about. Okay, and as you can see, this is an FPS. So we have a single player and a multiplayer. So let's start with a single player campaign, then we'll talk about multiplayer, and then we'll give you a summary. So the single player consists of a dystopian future where we have pretty generic story here. So the story goes that as usual, there was a war on Earth and 2 factions arose from the war. So you have the Forsaken, which are a sick, poor faction, and you have the Passes, which are a technologically advanced faction with a whole lot of money. So the Passes seem to gap it on a big rocket, leaving the Forsaken behind. Now, the Forsaken somehow gain a whole lot of technology and chase them down. I'm not sure whether the war that continues from that point, which you're involved in, is based on Earth, or if they move it to another planet. It doesn't actually specify that, which would be good to get a bit more information on stuff like that. The story almost kind of stops, but I think we've got a bit of a translation issue, because I found the voice talent and voice acting very bad, and they don't deliver the story well. So I wonder if the original voice acting and the story deliver that better and actually tell you more information. So it would be good to possibly get a version in the future where we get the old story with just subtitles. So I think we may have lost something in translation there. So let's talk about the campaign a bit more. So it took me 2 hours to complete, which isn't very long at all. But I'll say that was probably enough. I think any more than that and it'll get a bit tiresome. You only go through 3 zones. So you have a desert area, and you have a factory, and you have a mothership to fight through. So all of them, I mean, whilst I say that that's enough, all of those areas have a cool design. They're all kind of this Persian design to it, which it has a nice feel, and I like it. And sometimes you can look at it and really appreciate that design on top of the graphics, and it makes a good looking game for many parts of that. One other thing I'll mention is the weapons. There is only 5 weapons in the game that I can see. So you generally start with a pistol, a sniper rifle, and a machine gun, and you can pick up your enemy's weapons, which is nice, but I just wish there was some more in there. So you can have a shotgun and I think a slower, harder hitting machine gun as well. So yeah, a bit more weapons would be good. And let's talk about the AI in the game, because it really matters in the campaign. So your AI that assists you, I almost wish they were removed. I found that they really take you out of the immersion of the feel of the game. There's many times where they behave so badly, it looks so silly, where they would run up to an enemy, and because the damage your allies put out is so low, they stand face to face with an enemy and no one dies for so long. The only person that ever kills anyone is yourself, which that was balanced out of other games a long time ago. I remember this same issue was something which I noted many years ago in games, and that seems to go on now. When you play modern titles, Call of Duty, Battlefield, if they have a single player campaign, which isn't very often, but when they do, your allies seem to be making a difference, whereas in this game they don't. So I'd rather they just remove them. Tell me the story of a radio by your kind of backup. Tell me of when your allies are getting destroyed out of sight. That's the type of story that would work here. The AI in the enemy is also very simple, but it's not as bad because generally you can take them out before you kind of see how stupid they are. It would be good to get a bit more variation of what they're trying to do. The flying AI isn't too bad. They do mix it up a bit, so when you combine that with the ground AI, it's not too bad. But it could be rebalanced, that's for sure. Another thing is as well, I would really like to see more interaction components. The world seemed a little empty, as well as assets. I find the game looks good, but it could do with just some more assets in there to add a bit more things that you see. And as I said, so interaction would be good. I mean, every now and again you plant a bomb, and you become immune when you plant a bomb as well, which isn't very good. But just other things where a bit of a puzzle here and there. So go to this area, plant the bomb, and that's it. I'd rather there be other things to do, maybe a bit of platforming where you need to jump to a certain location. Stuff like that, where you mix it up a bit more. It's just a bit too mundane sometimes, this single player. So yeah, I'll leave the single player talk there, and let's move on to multiplayer. And before we get started talking about multiplayer, I need to say, sometimes the problem with testing games and previewing games before they're released to mass market is some components of the game are not functional because there's no one else to play them with. And that was the case for the multiplayer here. I've had limited exposure, and the exposure I have had has been against a minimal amount of enemies. So my opinion of this is a little skewed at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another video based solely on the multiplayer, and I'll link it here. But if it's not there, just check back in a few days. I'll try and get that up as soon as possible. Okay, so as I said, my opinion on this is not 100% correct because I can't get that full gameplay of the multiplayer at the moment. But I have had a look around and have had a little play with it. So I'll just give you, I guess, my thoughts on how it's going to play out. One thing to note as well is that this game came out single player only, and they've added multiplayer as an afterthought because of suggestions from the community. That is fantastic. That's really getting community feedback and actually listening to it. So it gives me a lot of faith in these developers to, even if there is problems that are raised with the current situation multiplayer, that hopefully they will support this game and fix it going forward. So that's always very positive. If you don't understand the difference between dedicated servers and what we generally get these days, generally we get peer-to-peer. Or with EA you get some monstrosity where you can't choose, you just forced onto random servers. Dedicated servers, you can choose the location based generally, so you can say that one is good for me because I'm based in the UK, so I'll choose a European server. And with peer-to-peer, you can be paired with anyone with a terrible internet connection and your game's going to behave terribly. So for competitive play or FPS play, that's never good. Dedicated servers are the way to go in my opinion. So very happy this has got those. So the actual gameplay modes, there's a deathmatch, team deathmatch, and capture the flag. So very standard old school types of game modes there. There's only 2 maps available now. So that's something I really wish the devs would work on. It's good to get more maps. And also, for things like maps, if they're going to introduce content in the future and you're trying to charge for it, that can sometimes split a community. So if a good community does grow with this for multiplayer, I really hope they would introduce maps for free. If you're going to try and make money, make it cosmetic. Okay, so weapons. There's only 6 weapons. That would be the same. I'd really like to see more. Rocket launchers, grenade launchers. This is a futuristic game that could have crazy weapons. And I think they've missed a bit of an opportunity there, but hopefully they could add to it. Okay, so how did I find the gameplay for multiplayer? It was the same as single player in a lot of ways. It felt just a little bit stale and slow, but still the weapon play is satisfying. So with a whole lot more people, this could be quite fun, but it's a really hard call at this point in time. Okay, so that's really gone over single player pretty heavily and a bit of multiplayer. As I said, I'll link to another video, but let's just take a quick look at audio, graphics, and give a bit of an overview. So with the graphics, I'm actually pretty impressed. For an indie title, this looks pretty good. Admittedly, it has a whole lot of bloom and lens flare. So if you take that off, you're going to lose a bit of that kind of AAA look. But I think the textures are generally pretty good, and the general graphic quality, it's on the Unreal Engine, so it's always pretty good. One thing I will say though is there needed to be more assets in the game. I find often you're looking at the title and you think this is a good looking game, but it just seems a little empty. So that to me could use a couple more assets dotted around the place to give it a bit more of that immersion into the game, into the world. But yeah, so graphically, I think it is a good looking game. I'm impressed with that. So let's go on to audio. Okay, so I'm a real audio fan. I really like to dissect down on games' audio quality and the assets they've put in, so this is always my favorite area. So with audio, I think the sound across the board with this title is not too bad. The sound of the weapons, the sound of the explosions, the sound of the voice, the quality of those assets is okay, so that's not too bad. The music, that's not too bad as well. It builds up and it adds a bit of tension here and there, and it's quite memorable sometimes. Adds a bit of emotion here and there, so that's quite good. It could be a lot better, but I think it's an acceptable level. Now, there's a big red cross with audio in this game, unfortunately, and that is the voiceover. So that's done as it's been coming to, obviously, an English-speaking audience. So I actually did a bit of research and found a gameplay video of the game before it's been subbed over, and the original voiceover was so much better. I just really wish that they'd not done a voiceover and just given us subtitles, because the emotion in the original voice, I believe it's obviously a game made in Iran, so there's a couple different languages there, so I'm not sure which one it is. Could be Persian, could be Farsi, I think is another one. So, you know, I'm not sure which one it is. I'm not familiar with it, but just the emotion in the acting is enough to convince me over what we have now. So I wish that they put that back in the game. So put that back in and leave the English subtitles, or update the English subtitles to what the old voices were. So yeah, audio, I say it passes, but I'm really disappointed with the voiceover.
At this point in my videos, I normally dissect down on the gameplay and how I feel about that, but the thing is, I've already really done that with this game already, so I'm not going to go over that again. So, ultimate question here, is this title worth $15 US on release? If you're sitting on the fence, just wait until you see my multiplayer video, then you can make the call. If you think 2 hours isn't long enough and the risk is too high for the multiplayer falling on its face, you've already made a decision. Job done, right? If you're pretty keen on it, I guess I'll just add these words. When I purchase an indie title like this, I do it in hope that I'm also putting an investment in the team to make future content for that game and future games as well of a similar style that I like. So that's how I look at things like this. It's not only $15 for that game as it is now. You're investing in that development team. I don't think you get the same feeling with AAA titles. Well, I certainly don't anyway. Okay, so I'll leave it here. I say check out my multiplayer video when it comes out, and give me a like if you liked it. Give me some feedback, that's always good. And please subscribe, it really helps us out, trying to grow the channel. And I'll see you next time.